everyone. Welcome back to Max and Men Talk Hockey. Today, Max and I are here with Victoria Royals goalie Tyler Palmer. Tyler, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're good. Max, how are you?
Wonderful.
Yep. So today, we're going to be discussing with Tyler about the important topic of should major junior hockey players be traded. But first, we're going to ask Tyler just some questions about his career and how everything worked out and how he's playing in the WHL with Victoria. So, Tyler, you came from Fernie, British Columbia. How was that growing up? I know I looked it up a bit on Google Maps, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So, how was it growing up there?
Yeah, you got that right. It's definitely in the middle of nowhere. Small town. There's not a whole lot of hockey here. It is Canada, so there is hockey everywhere. But, having to drive hours in order to get ice is definitely a commitment that you have to make and a sacrifice and moving away at a young age to play hockey. But, it's one that definitely very happy I made. So, yeah.
Yeah, how far is it to the nearest sheet of ice?
Well, we have ice here in Fernie. It's just that, in the summers it gets taken out. So Cranbrook would be the nearest ice, but even then there's not a whole lot of coaching and goalie-specific coaching anyway in Cranbrook. So I usually end up going to either Lethbridge or Calgary to get any sort of training in the summer. So that's 2 to 3 hour drive depending on where I go. So it's definitely a little ways, but you have to make do with what you got. So
Totally, Max.
Yeah. So leading up to the WHL Bantam draft, what was your goal? Did you have a process of where you kind of knew you were going to get drafted, and how did that whole process go?
No, I mean, obviously coming from a small town in the middle of nowhere, I kind of came from off the radar. So it was really my first year playing AAA hockey actually, and I was having a good year, starting to figure out where I fit, and it just kind of gave me the confidence to really push through, and then I ended up getting drafted out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now you're in Victoria, but before that you played in the AJHL. That's the Alberta Junior A Hockey League. So why did you decide to make the jump to the WHL instead of stick in the AJHL and possibly get a D1 offer?
Division One, NCAA was definitely a route that I was definitely considering going. But then got the call from Victoria. We started talking with them, and it just made a lot of sense. Maybe I would have gotten a Division One offer, but at this time it made more sense. Get the automatic scholarship to anywhere CIS. So that was a big part, the schooling, and also it's just great hockey. And I know my agent was telling me that how great an organization Victoria was. So it was really a no-brainer for me actually.
Totally. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah. So growing up, I read that you liked Kiprasov, Price, and Fleury. But right now, is there a team that you like most in the NHL, or a goalie that you like to really model your game after?
I'm a pretty good Oilers fan right now. I wouldn't say Mike Smith is a guy I like to model my game after, but no, I would actually probably go currently. A guy like UC Saros or Igor Shesterkin would be more my style of game that I want to play. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, big Rangers fan, so Shesterkin, definitely someone as a former goalie myself that I definitely model my game after for the 1 year that I saw him play on TV, and then before that was Hank for me. And then I think for Max, definitely Juicy Saros is someone.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a shorter guy too, and he gets it done. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah. And I think now we can go into our main body of the video, which is should junior hockey players be traded or not? And this is a debated topic because in Canada juniors, you have the WHL, OHL, and QMJHL, all of which have their eligibility from the age. So their players are eligible to play there between the ages of 15 or 16 up to 20 or 21. So imagine you're like a 16-year-old and you're playing, for example, in Victoria, British Columbia, which is right next to the Pacific Ocean. One day, let's say in your billet house, you get a call and it's your general manager saying you've been traded to the Winnipeg Ice all the way in Manitoba. Pack your bags. You got a billet family over there. Go. Like, Tyler, how would you feel if you were to get traded like that? And you're like so young in your career.
Yeah, definitely. It's it wouldn't be fun, that's for sure, to have to go through that. But I mean, I think sooner or later, as you go up in your career, you're gonna have to go through that either way. So I think, even though there are some young guys getting traded, they do have a rule in place where school age guys, or if you're in school, you can't be traded, which I think is actually a good rule. So you're not moving around and all, to a bunch of different schools and all that. But yeah, even, as an 18-year-old moving halfway across the country, I don't think that would be a great experience. However, I do think it's kind of part of the game. So yeah, I don't know, you could debate it either way, where, it's the WHL kind of models the league after the NHL in a lot of ways. So I think that's kind of where they're trying to go with the whole trading thing. Actually, it's junior everywhere allows trades, but I think especially the WHL really tries to model that and get you ready to get to the next level. And it also just allows more fluidity with the building of your team and all that. So I mean, there's a few different ways you could go with that. Yeah, it sucks, but it also there's some advantages to it, I think. So
Yeah. Oh, Max, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, most of the people that we've talked to say that their billet families are like just like their real families. They're really close with them and all stuff like that. So I feel like you're almost like you just got used to when you're second family, and now you're kind of moving away from them. That kind of sucks, but you got to keep in mind that the league's still kind of like a business, and if there's a guy who doesn't really mesh well with the locker room, or maybe think it's a trade's an absolute steal and you want to go for it, I definitely think it could help, especially in the future. As you said, it could happen in the future too. So why not be more prepared?
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not entirely against it. It's just that when you look at today's WHL and you look at how, for example, the Edmonton Oil Kings have been so dominant this year, just using them as an example, like they don't have that much homegrown talent. Sure, they have guys like Dylan Gunther and Sebastian Cossa, both of which are amazing players, but they get all their guys through trades. For example, Luke Prokop and Justin Sordiff, those are top junior players, NHL picks, the whole deal, that have been traded to Edmonton so that they can compete for a cup. But instead of maybe stacking your team to compete for a cup and even maybe a Memorial Cup, what if the WHL focuses more on their scouting and trying to scout their bantam guys and their midget guys and to offer guys with potential as free agents so that they can build their program up that way? Because then the league would be a lot more level-headed, because it always feels like every year that Edmonton, Kamloops, all those teams are just good every single year, and they do that through trades. And I think it's also you do have to consider it is a business. The WHL is a business, but also these are 18, 19, 20-year-old young adults who are just in adulthood. They don't really know much, and they're just stuck with their billet family, and they get a call and they have to go 2-3 hours into somewhere. And let's say you get traded somewhere like Prince George or Moose Jaw, both of which many NHL GMs say that you'd rather scout players playing for those teams at away games rather than at home games, just because the towns are so bad. Imagine getting traded there. Tyler, what do you think about that?
Yeah, there's definitely some points to be said there as well. I mean, yeah, the team stacking is one thing, but I think like say Edmonton this year, the amount of draft picks that they traded away in order for them to have these players, the development for their future team is hindered pretty badly, I think. Come another 2 years, they're not going to be even close to as good as they are now, I don't think. But so I mean, yeah, there's that. And also, yeah, the billet family thing is, you do get close with your billet family. I've had a few billet families, and I still keep in touch with all of them. So there's also you don't want to just leave your billet family, every season just because you're getting traded everywhere. And also, yeah, just the distance between it, just getting a call and you have to be on a flight. Sometimes you have to play like the next day, and it's just not great just coming into a brand new team. You don't even know what you're doing. All of a sudden you got to play a game. Yeah, there's definitely some cons to the trading as well. But I think that goes with pretty much every league, even when you get to pro. There's a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really on one side or the other. I think there's advantages and disadvantages to it. So
yeah, Max, what do you think? So like what Tyler said about it's relating a lot to the pros because I think that in the NHL and in the AHL, ECHL, those guys are all a lot older. In the you get a couple teenagers obviously in the NHL, obviously like top draft picks. In the AHL, not as much. You get guys like in their 20s for the most part, and then some vets. And in the ECHL, you rarely see a guy under 24. The ECHL is mostly guys who are 25 up, even mostly into their 30s. So it's like I think those guys are adults, like fully grown adults. They understand adulthood and what to do. And if they get traded, they can cope with it a lot better than a teenager who also has to deal with a lot of stress. So Max, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, as to what Tyler said, I kind of agree with. It's kind of weird being on one team the next day and another team the next. So maybe something like off-season trading would make more sense. Where if someone's going to get moved, it has to be during the off-season. And I feel like another thing, as you guys kind of talked about a little bit more, maybe a morale thing is kind of it is like how do you feel if you're traded for like a third round pick? Like how does that affect your season and your like your worth like in the league? So I feel like that could also kind of tie in a little bit. But yeah, I definitely think like being like 16, 17, 18, 19, kind of early to get traded. But I do think it has some pros too. And yeah, maybe off-season trading would make more sense.
Yeah, I think maybe off-season trading would make a lot more sense. And also what Tyler said about Edmonton, and they won't be as good in 2 years just because they traded all their draft picks. What if the only trades you can make are during the draft when it's only draft pick swaps? Like I'll trade you a second for a third and a fourth, something like that, because you really, really like a guy and you've scouted him well and you want to pick him. So then you can have good development and they train you how to become better hockey players apart from now the team just trades for what the player is right now so they can win. Tyler, what do you think about that approach?
yeah, I think there's definitely some restrictions that you could put on it that could help, definitely. Because yeah, the in-season trading it can be tough. It's because I know it's also being on the other side, being on a team, and then all of a sudden, one of your close buddies is gone halfway, and then you just got some new guy coming in that you have to get to know that guy. Basically, he's trying to fit in with the team. You're trying to help him fit in. It's just it's a bit of a process. It's one that you have to get used to as well. Again, with the pros, but yeah, it's definitely. I think there is definitely some advantages to the trading, but maybe adding a couple of restrictions or something might be useful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And yeah, like you said, like they're guys that are just like best friends, and now they're halfway across the continent. The WHL in specific, not so much in like the OHL, because the OHL are basically teams in the Greater Toronto area with a couple teams outside. And also in the QMJHL, like you can have like 14-hour road trips from one end of like Nova Scotia to the complete other end of Quebec. So that's definitely a major issue. And I remember talking with a guy over the wintertime. He got traded from, I believe it was like Ottawa to Hamilton in the OHL, or it was I think maybe even Peterborough to Hamilton. I don't know. All I know is that right now he's on Hamilton. He was part of the Mason McTavish trade, so I think he was in Peterborough. And when I talked to him, he sounded really, really upset, and he basically just put it really bluntly to me. He's like, "Look, I'm not really feeling anything right now. I'm kind of just bummed. I'm leaving some of my best friends, and I'm going to play for Hamilton." And that was basically a throw-in for Mason McTavish, because that's the only reason Hamilton got him, because Mason McTavish is the third overall pick. I mean, he already has 9 NHL games played, and he has like a goal in it and everything. So definitely, when you get traded, especially as an add-on to a bigger trade, it definitely hurts. It definitely hurts their morale, because they're kind of just like, here's a guy, just go deal with it. There's a guy that you're just there for the extra instead of the main part. So that's definitely a major part. Max, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was thinking maybe something like a trade limit, like three player trades, or maybe only teams under like a 50% winning percentage, so that like the actual teams that need the trading could really trade. But yeah, I think yeah, I mean, I don't know, trading like top guys. Like, I mean, we interviewed Talon Boyko, and he was just drafted by the Rangers in the third round, I believe, and they traded him almost right after he was drafted. So, and that just shows that the guys who are getting drafted in the NHL, that definitely like increases, how worthy a guy is in these junior leagues, and teams obviously want, an NHL prospect, not only for like skill, but also that increases like media presence. Obviously, having like a Rangers draft pick like that's huge for a team. So
Yeah, Tyler, what do you think about that? It's like Talon's a good friend of ours. He was traded from Tri City to Kelowna. I think like 6 games into the season, and he was definitely not feeling it at first. Of course, he was moving like 500 miles north, but yeah, again, like I understand it was an overage goalie, but kind of just to put a bow on it, what's your stance on this controversial situation?
Yeah, I think definitely for those overage players that are getting traded, because most of them, have played for their team for not just like a little bit, but they played there for a while. So they've gotten to know that not only the organization, but all the players on that team, and they've gotten pretty close to them. And then all of a sudden, they have to move to a whole nother team and just get the gist of that whole new team. And it can take a while to get into it. So I think it can kind of throw a temporary wrench into your season anyway. Especially being at the start, you're just getting a feel for it, like Talon did, and then you're just kind of thrown to another team. He ended up doing well in the end, but there's that side where it's it sucks. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Max, what do you think?
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me of like high school. Like imagine a senior who had been there freshman, sophomore, junior year, got to know the coaching staff, the trainers, all that kind of stuff. Then you're about to graduate and then boom, you're traded. Like especially as you said for talent, I mean, that's huge. I mean, he gave so much to the organization and last second, he's traded and I mean, as you said, he finished off the season strong, but that's gonna be like a huge blow. Like the team that you've worked with, all the off seasons, all the training with the team that you use to help you get drafted to the NHL, and then you put so much thought and effort into it, and then boom, you're traded. Like that's got to be huge.
Yeah, and I think, let's say you're like a senior again, like in Max's example, you're a senior in high school. Let's say in Victoria, you've made some great friends. Maybe you've gotten like a small job working somewhere, maybe in like a local restaurant washing dishes. You made some good friends. They don't play hockey or they just play some local AA, AAA hockey for fun. Um, and you're just really close to them, or some people in your class maybe have a significant other that you met there. And then just like, guess what? You're traded. And now you just have to say goodbye to all those relationships. And you essentially just have to cross your fingers and pray that you're even going to see them again because you have no clue where your life is going to head. And you can't really help anyone else out. And I think at that point, you just feel a bit helpless. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, definitely. I've moved a few times. I grew up in Fernie, moved to Lethbridge. So I had to leave all these relationships here. And then, got to know a whole bunch of people in Lethbridge, really liked it there. And then boom, I moved again to Edmonton. And then, I started to make a whole bunch of new friends there, started to like it there. Now I'm in Victoria. So it's definitely, for me, it's not something that's new to me. So maybe it's, I'm already used to it. But, for someone that hasn't really gone through that a whole lot before, it's definitely, it'd be tough. And, I just remember how tough it was for me going through that the first time, moving to Lethbridge. It turned out good in the end, but it really sucks at the time. So, yeah.
So Tyler, like, would you say that with the experience, you think if you were to get traded again, would it be easier, or would you think it would be harder?
I think it would be easier now, obviously, than if this was my first time. I think it would definitely be really tough. But having gone through, a lot of moving already, I think I would be just fine. However, I do really like it, Victoria, and I would like to stay there. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's going to do it for us today. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us for 20 minutes. It was an absolute blast having you on talking about such a really important situation today in Canadian and American junior hockey.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video. Hit the like button if you like it. Subscribe. Also, tell everyone, follow our Instagram. We just made a new TikTok account. We're going to be posting a lot. No cringeworthy dances. None of that. But yeah, be on the lookout for everything. And stay tuned and stay safe, everyone.